This is the Business Storytelling Show, a top global marketing podcast listened to in more than 100 countries, live streamed on social media, and broadcast on DBTV. Christoph Trappe chats with industry leaders to help your company tell better business stories. Here's today's episode.
Hey, business storytellers. How's everyone doing? Episode 676. 700 will be here before we know it. Today, let's talk about driving conversions on websites and who doesn't want to do that, whether it's a micro conversion or whether it's something along the way, or driving actual revenue, catching, bring me the money. And to do that, of course, AI now has a role. AI has a role in everything, right? It's certainly hogging the headlines, and I'm talking to the CEO of Metrical. Check out their website, metric.al. Actually, very creative. If you ask me, I didn't even know how you could do that. Maybe I should do Christoph.Trappe. There's probably a way to do that. So let's find out. How does Metrical do that? Why does Metrical exist? Really excited to talk to Zabe Agha about that topic. Zabe, welcome to the show.
Christoph, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Nice to see you. Really appreciate the great setup you have. Great audio. It's always super important to me when guests come on and they sound and look good. So really appreciate that. Now, but let's talk about conversions. Everybody wants them. Sometimes they're harder to get than others. Why does Metrical? What's Metrical's role? Why did you found it? What was the gap you were trying to close in the market?
So e-commerce has been around for a long time. I started getting my feet wet in the digital space in the late 90s, right after college. And that's when e-commerce really started getting its own legs. And one of the things that's happened is that over the last 25 years, conversion rates haven't actually changed much. Conversion rates are still about 3% for most e-commerce brands. And that means that for the most part, things haven't changed. Customers are doing the same thing. They're visiting sites, they're bouncing, they're abandoning, they're not converting. And e-commerce brands are constantly trying to do things to help customers convert. So they're doing things like pop-ups and discounts and things like that. And we realized that there was an opportunity specifically with the kind of data that e-commerce sites have access to that allows them to be able to harness that data in a way that would allow them to better understand their customers, engage them in creative and different ways than most e-commerce brands do today, and drive higher levels of conversion. And if you look at most sites where you've got 97% of people that visit and never do anything, our goal is to really figure out how to help brands and retailers look at that 97% in a very creative way, leveraging data and artificial intelligence and converting a lot of those people that normally wouldn't convert.
I'm just baffled by conversion rates haven't changed much since the 90s. That's just sounds crazy to me. But why is that? Why has it been roughly the same number?
For the most part, if you think about your own shopping experience, what will end up happening is that you're mostly in a journey to explore what it is you're looking for. We find that people tend to go to websites, sort of look at a product and figure out whether it's the right price, and then go to other sites to go compare it. Amazon is obviously a major destination for a lot of people to go compare against. And so for most people, shopping tends not to be I know exactly what I want. I'm going to go get it and pick it up and go, because most sites don't offer that much variety. The reason that Amazon is successful is because they have that variety. So if you know you need a charger or a headset, you can sort of go there and get it. And so you don't do a lot of comparison shopping. But for most brands, if you're selling retail clothes or apparel or beauty or accessories or things of that type, there's a lot of opportunities to go and look at other sites and see what others are offering. So for the journey for most people, it's about going to a website, seeing what they have, their options, their prices, maybe cost of shipping, time to shipping, and then seeing whether there's better alternatives. And so since there's such a plethora of options out there, a lot of brands are really just focused on trying to get people to convert as soon as they can or best as they can. But for a consumer, it really is all about trying to find the best opportunity. And so over the last 25 years, that landscape hasn't changed much, nor has shopper behavior changed that much either. And that's why you don't see a change in conversion rates that much.
It's so interesting. Of course, technology can hopefully help us kind of bump that up or make it even more relevant. Now, I put my commander's hat on here because I'm going to use the example of the Fanatics, fanatics.com. Every time I go there, they always surprise me with something, and they always have the countdown clock running. Like there's always a deal. Usually it ends at midnight every day. They have it every day. It expires whenever. It makes no difference when you show up, I'm pretty sure. But then they also have like these little surprises sometimes. I buy a hat, and all of a sudden the hat is $27 as opposed to $38 when I get into my cart. But how do you? And I don't know if they do that on purpose, because if I don't go that far, maybe I wouldn't see it, I wouldn't buy it. But if it goes the other way, I will not buy it, right? If it goes up all of a sudden and I didn't expect it to go up for whatever reason, or if I'm buying something for 150 bucks and there's a 49-cent shipping fee, I will probably not buy, right? Crazy.
Yeah.
But how do you use that data to then actually bump up conversions or bump up higher revenue conversions, maybe even?
So first off, Fanatics is an amazing example. They're a very sophisticated company from a technical point of view, and they do a lot of the things right. So the kind of experience that you've had in terms of going to the site, seeing countdown timers, seeing that your price has changed after you add an item to a cart, those are amazing tactics that they're leveraging to help drive those types of conversions. What we do is that in many sense, we sort of take some of those same capabilities and make them available to other e-commerce brands. The thing that's a little bit different with us and a site like Fanatics is that they're targeting that kind of experience to almost everybody that comes to the website. So you said, for example, when you show up, you see that counter almost every single day. And I suspect probably everyone sees that counter. The thing that makes us a little bit different is that when we collect the data on an e-commerce website, we're looking at a whole bunch of attributes of what's happening. So we're looking at the day of the week, the time of the day, the time of the year, where are people coming from, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Google, Bing, whatever it is. Where are they landing on the website? Are they going to the homepage? Are they going to a product page? What's the price? How many reviews does an item have? Things of that type. So we look at all of this data and we feed that into these machine learning models that then say, okay, based on the historical data, what's likely to happen? So if you came in from a paid Google ad and you landed on a pair of Levi's or a baseball cap, our system knows that historically at this time of day, on this day of the week and this time of the year, for people that are coming in from Google, landing on white hats at a certain price point, statistically, is a person likely to add that item to their cart? Are they going to bounce? Are they going to look at more products? Our system knows all that. There's thousands and thousands of permutations of what could happen, and our system is able to calculate the probability of a certain outcome in near real time and says, okay, this person, we don't know who they are. We don't collect any PII data, but we don't know who this person is. They just came in from Google and landed on this product. We think that the probability of them adding this item to a cart is 65%, or we think that the probability of them leaving the website and not doing anything is 75%. And then based on that, we give the retailer the ability to figure out how do we actually either engage with this customer because we're going to lose them because they're going to bounce, or not engage with them because there's a high probability, more than 50-50 chance that this person's actually going to add this item to a cart or leave. So how do we make sure that they can actually do that without giving them a discount? So our system is really trying to find those people that are on the fence about whether they want to buy or not, and how do we move them over in such a way that we entice them with that right experience, that message, that timer, that price point, that free shipping, whatever it is, to actually get them to being an actual buyer.
What's interesting to me about the concept is, I mean, so even when people come to me, and I get it, I'm not a B2C seller necessarily, but people come to me and they want to buy something. And I actually know most of the time, more often than not, what's going to happen based on their first ask, right? Like I
Right.
can predict what they're going to say, where they're likely going to end up. If they say this one thing, it's never going to lead to anything, never, ever, never has in 20 years. But of course, when you do it this way for an e-tailer, right, you actually you can predict at scale and you can figure out what people might do.
You've actually developed your own heuristics, right? You know that when you're having a conversation with somebody, what their demeanor is like, the way that they're talking to you, are they paying attention to you? Is there eye contact? The things that they say. Based on that, you probably have a real, track record of experience and saying, "Oh, I know that whenever this person's talking to me and they're just not paying attention to me and staring out into the void while having a conversation, they're not engaged and nothing's going to come out of it." I'm guessing, right? Like that's probably what your own experience is.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So But how, so you gather all this data, right? And you know what people do and what most likely will lead to an abandoned cart or maybe not even getting to the cart and all these things. But how often do those behaviors change? I mean, I know we don't have a COVID event every year.
Sure.
A lot of stuff changed, right? Like dramatically when COVID happened.
Very
And like,
dramatic.
how often does it need to get refreshed, or does it just or is it like the camera in my car that records over itself constantly every few hours?
That's a great question. I think one of the things that we find is that a lot of companies end up saying, okay, we've got this set of data, let us analyze it and then figure out how we're going to act based on that data. And they're not doing exactly what you're suggesting, is that they're not refreshing that data on a regular basis. We find that you do have to, never mind like a major event like a COVID, but the reality is that the landscape in commerce is constantly changing. Companies are going out of business, new entrants are coming in, you've got price changes that have to happen because Amazon is having Amazon Prime Day. And so as all of these events are changing in the landscape, that requires that this data be constantly analyzed. And so what we end up doing is that we have these models that dynamically update on a regular frequency so that the models stay fresh, if you will. So we're always looking at, for example, the last N months worth of data for a customer and figuring out, what needs to happen every week or so, sometimes even more frequently than that, to make sure that that model stays fresh. But you're completely right. You can't just say, okay, we've got this data, let's just sort of sit there and see what happens. You constantly have to be refreshing it. And that's very expensive and time consuming. And that's why we leverage machine learning to be able to do that, because it's the perfect tool to be able to take really, really large amounts of data and then just refresh it using the same ideas and same model characteristics over and over again.
So maybe let's talk about some of the other strategies people have used. I mean, I get these fancy, funny, sometimes annoying emails. Oh, you left something in your card. It's missing you or whatever, whatever. Like somebody had fun with it. Sometimes you get retargeting ads. By the way, my friends, if you are sending out retargeting campaigns, be careful who does it. I had it the other day from a state agency, and I'm like, you should not be retargeting to anybody. I know we're talking about e-commerce, but there's nobody that goes on that state agency's website and wants to be retargeted to. Nobody.
Yeah.
I'm dying on that hill. So talk to me about what are the advantages or disadvantages to running like a retargeting campaign or an email follow-up versus what you're doing. I mean, I guess it's kind of like you already left the house, right? If you do those, and yours is kind of on the site, or what?
Exactly. Yeah. So let's look at the actual typical e-commerce funnel. So what ends up happening is that for most e-commerce brands, somebody comes to the website, and in many cases, that's either organic traffic, which means that somebody just typed in the URL on the website and showed up directly, or it's paid traffic, meaning that the brand ended up putting out ads on Instagram or Google or elsewhere. People clicked on those ads, which cost the retailer some money. The people come to the website, they browse around, and then in the kind of experience that you're just describing, those people end up bouncing. So when those people end up bouncing, then what ends up happening is that the retailer does one of those remarketing campaigns. So if they have your email address, they're going to send you an email. It may not even be items you have in your cart. It could just be like, hey, you looked at this product. Do you know that this product is now 10% cheaper? Or they end up sending you retargeting ads. The thing that we do that's a little bit different than that strategy, and we don't ask our retailers to change what they're doing, is that we're giving retailers and brands another bite of the apple while the shopper is on the site. So since you are paying money for this traffic that's coming to the website, you're paying for retargeting and remarketing after the person's already left. Those are the really two chances that you have. But there's this huge opportunity you have when the person's actually on the website itself. And so during that time, we're finding who are those people that really you need to engage with. How do you give them that message that will get them to become a buyer or a shopper? And then more importantly, or just as important, are who are the people you should make sure you don't engage with? If you've got somebody that's a loyal customer, they buy frequently, that, it's somebody that really buys at the end of every 2 weeks because they've just gotten their paycheck. Those are people you shouldn't be engaging with. And so what the machine learning is doing is saying that let's figure out how to interject and engage with those people while they're on the website. but also figure out who do we not engage with. And some of the tactics that we end up using in order for us to be able to convert those people are similar to what you've actually seen or what you just described with Fanatics. We use everything from discounts to even just reminding people about certain things. So a lot of sites have a free shipping threshold. What we've ended up finding is that even though everyone may know that the free shipping threshold is like $75, and it's a banner that's always just sort of scrolling across the top of the website, we found that if you just remind people that, hey, don't forget your product qualifies for free shipping, and you do that in a non-intrusive way, you can increase the conversion rate by 11 to 13% for that group of people. And that's something that they already knew. So as a retailer, you're not giving away any additional discount or margin. They already reached their free shipping threshold, but just reminding them drives that extra conversion. And so we use tactics like that that help get people over the line and make them better customers.
It's kind of a fine line between re-engaging people, engaging them in a meaningful way, and just being, let's be honest, annoying, right? And I'll pick on GoDaddy. It's been many years now. They may have gotten way better, and bigger probably too. But what they used to there was so many upsells and so many rabbit holes they would try to push you into when you just want to sign up for a URL. It was crazy, right? And then I have, for example, I'm thinking of Spokio, for example. It's like $29 a month, something like that. And I signed up, I had the free trial. And then I'm like, oh, I want to cancel. Oh, are you really sure? Here's one deal. Oh, yeah, I want to cancel. Oh, hey, here's another deal. Oh, yeah, maybe. But after the fourth offer, I'll just be annoyed, right?
Sure.
So how do you find that right balance between relevant information at the right time, and then not just kind of annoying people from leaving, I guess?
Yeah, I think that's part science and part art. I think everybody should be thinking about the ways that they engage with the customer and how do you actually leverage A/B testing as one tool. So that's one way to sort of look at it, which is specifically around how do you provide experiences and then measure the outcome of those experiences so that you know that they're both effective and also not annoying to the customer. So that's one key thing. The next piece of that is where the art comes in. How do you actually come up with some sort of experiences that are, I think saying delightful is a very catchy nowadays, but I think it's a little bit too, it's being too polite. I think the reality is in most cases, you don't provide delightful experiences in a lot of the kind of conversions that companies are trying to do, but you try to be as good as you can. There's an entire practice of dark patterns where people are trying to make you do things that you probably don't want to do. And it's sort of unfortunately become endemic on the web where, just like you described, you're trying to unsubscribe and you don't just have the option to unsubscribe, you're being dragged along and just being, just sort of kicking and screaming and trying to get out, and people won't let you go. And what we are trying to do is figure out how do you combine those non-dark patterns? How do you not fool people? How do you do A/B testing? And then how do you use machine learning and data science as a way of being able to find that perfect intersection between those three things that allow you to be able to get the customer what they want with the least amount of friction for the customer while also preserving the brand integrity. I mean, the reason that you're actually remembering these names is because you didn't have a great experience. And so what we want to do is that when a brand is using a metrical solution to help drive conversion, we don't want the customer to ever walk away from that thinking, oh, that was really annoying. We want them to be able to feel, oh, I'm glad I got that message. It really got me what I wanted to get. It either got me that deal, or it reminded me that I got free shipping, or really got me that product that I really wanted. And so we want to be very careful about finding that. But I really think that for a lot of brands and retailers, they need to look at A/B testing, dark patterns, and making sure that they're not providing bad experiences for the customer, and then leveraging machine learning and data science to bring those pieces together.
And just to clarify, for my friends at Spokio I remembered because the experience was fantastic and it's an awesome service. So it's either on the really negative side or the really positive, right? Everybody in the middle, you kind of breeze over. You don't remember. You never share them on podcasts. So somebody comes to your website and you're trying to figure out, what's going to happen or who's most likely to leave before they buy something, even though they're interested. What is the earliest time when somebody comes to a site that you can actually know or predict what's going to happen? So, for example, I come to Fanatics at what point do you know? Like once I click out of the countdown, once I click over to the NFL, to the Commanders, like how deep does somebody have to go for you to start? Not even complete it, but just to start even.
Yeah, so that's a really hard question to answer because the correct answer is that there's no right time. The reality is that every individual is different. Everyone wants something different, and every website is different. They not only are they different in terms of like the products that they sell, but they're different in terms of the promotions that they're running or their marketing calendar campaign, things of that type, or even the time of the year. Maybe a lot of people do Cyber Monday stuff. Some companies don't do it. So there's too many variables in there. So there's actually no right time, and this is where data starts becoming really important because uh, one of the big things that's very popular in data science broadly is sort of thinking about cohorts, like what do certain types of people do. The problem with cohorts is that it lumps people together, and what we do is that we try to think about each individual as an individual because each individual is different, and we try to treat each individual differently. So we have these cohorts of one that we think about rather than these cohorts of like 10,000 or 100,000 people. So to specifically answer your question, there's no one right time. If you're trying to be thoughtful about what is the best time, what you really want to do is sort of look at your e-commerce conversion funnel and say, where am I losing most of the people? In most cases, what ends up happening is that people will come in from paid advertising, for example, and land on a product detail page, and a lot of them will typically bounce. So that means that you've got like maybe one visit or one click before you have an opportunity to be able to do something. And so you have to be careful that you don't wait too long. You don't wait 4 or 5 clicks to sort of see what happens, because you probably lost anywhere between 85 to 90% of your commerce traffic by that time. So you have to be very thoughtful about, where am I getting leakage in my funnel, where are people leaving from, and where do I interact. So it's a little bit more about where than when. You want to look at which products are people leaving the most from, where's most of the traffic coming, and where am I having my worst conversion, rather than thinking about more broadly, is the homepage, is it product pages, is it cart, is it checkout. I think it's a lot more about the where.
On e-commerce pages, where do people typically come from? I mean, it's like, when I'm thinking about like SEO on like a corporate website, like on a blog, like everybody always spends all this time creating the blog landing page, yeah, it needs to look fine, but that's not where people come from at all. Like nobody goes navigation,
Sure.
blog, read the blog. Nobody does that, right? They find the blog articles through search. So like on e-commerce, like where do people typically come in? Is it the homepage, or does it
So a
depend
lot of
on the brand?
organic traffic will come in on the homepage. So for example, if you wanted to go to Fanatics, you may just type in fanatics.com, unless you've got like the commanders already bookmarked in your browser. So for most people, they're typically going in to the homepage if they are organic. But if it's paid advertising, which tends to be the majority for most e-commerce brands, those people are coming in directly into a product page. So we call those PDPs, for product detail pages. So people are coming directly into those from the website. And then the source of those could be search engines, Instagram, Facebook, anything that is a direct into a product page.
Very interesting. I really appreciate you coming on the show. Nice to meet you. Nice to hear more about Metrical. Like really quickly, 30 seconds, tell us what company should reach out, like size, or like who's your perfect customer, so to speak.
Yeah, so our perfect customer is a e-commerce brand with or without brick and mortar that does about $50 million to $75 million in e-com and above, and has about 1 million visitors a month. So if you fit in that spot and you're thinking about how do you take advantage of all these people coming to your site and all the data that you have, how do we actually convert those people in a more thoughtful, meaningful, and better experience for the customer and for the brand, then Metrical is the kind of solution that you should be looking into.
Check them out, metric.al. Zabe, nice to see you. Nice to meet you. And we're out.
Christoph, thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in. Please rate and review the Business Storytelling Show on your favorite podcast